The silence of the grand ballroom was the first thing that hit me. It was a cavernous, empty space that swallowed the sound of my own breathing. I stood alone under the crystal chandelier, the one I had specifically chosen to cast a warm, celebratory glow over my parents' 50th wedding anniversary party, the party I had single-handedly planned and paid for. The silence was broken only by the echo of my mother's laughter when she finally arrived, an hour late, holding a small plastic food container. We decided to do a casual get-together at Megan's house instead. She announced, her voice breezy. It was just easier for everyone. She pushed the container into my hands. But we saved you some potato salad. My name is Clara Donovan, and for all of my 34 years, I have been the architect of my family's life, both literally and financially. I build things. I design award-winning commercial spaces, sleek, modern homes, and apparently, I fund the lives of my entire family while they offer me scraps from a party held in my honor, a party to which I was not invited, standing there in that hollow $15,000 venue. Holding a container of lukewarm potato salad, I felt the foundations of my own life, the ones I had so carefully built on duty and love, finally begin to crack. The story of my family is written on blueprints they never paid for, and in bank transfers they never acknowledged. It began when I was young. I was the quiet one, the one with the sketch pads, and the strange obsession with how buildings fit together. My older sister Megan was the star, the vibrant one destined for greatness who never quite found it. My younger brother, Leo, was the charming screw-up, the one whose mistakes were always met with indulgent sighs and a fresh infusion of cash to soften the blow. I was just Clara, the reliable one, the one who was good with details, the one who would always figure it out, and figuring it out always meant I was the one who paid for it. When Megan wanted to add a sunroom to her house, she didn't hire a contractor. She called me for 3 months. I spent my nights and weekends drafting plans, sourcing materials at a discount through my industry contacts, and overseeing the construction. The result was a stunning, light-filled space that won a local design award. In her acceptance speech, Megan thanked her own impeccable taste for the vision. My name was never mentioned. The invoice for my services, which would have been over $20,000, was never sent because that is not what our family did. Leo's ventures were more fleeting but equally expensive. There was the gourmet food truck that never sold a single taco. The app that was supposed to revolutionize the pet sitting industry, and the brief but costly foray into becoming a social media Each failed dream was cushioned by a soft landing paid for by my success. Just a little loan to get me back on my feet. Sis, he would say, the loans were never repaid. They were absorbed into the vast, unspoken debt that the Donovan family owed me. A debt they seemed blissfully unaware of. My own successes were treated with a strange mix of pride and resentment. When my firm won the bid to design the new city library, a career-defining achievement, my father nodded and said, "That's nice, dear." Now, about this issue with the car, my parents saw my income not as a measure of my hard work and talent, but as a collective family resource, a safety net that they were entitled to use without asking. I was their emergency fund, their luxury vacation planner, and their personal lender, all rolled into one. The 50th anniversary party was supposed to be my masterpiece, a testament to my love for them. I found the perfect venue a historic estate with sprawling gardens. I curated a menu with their favorite foods, hired a string quartet to play the songs from their wedding, and designed invitations that told the story of their half-century together. I poured every ounce of my professional skill and a significant portion of my savings into creating a perfect, unforgettable night for them. They all confirmed their attendance with enthusiasm, praising my incredible planning skills. The first sign of trouble was the silence. The day of the party, my phone, usually buzzing with last-minute questions, was still. I brushed it off, assuming everyone was busy getting ready. I arrived at the estate early to oversee the final touches. The flowers were breathtaking, the tables were set to perfection, and the string quartet was warming up. Everything was ready. All that was missing was my family. An hour after the start time, with the catering staff looking at me with pity, the reality began to sink in. They were not just late, they were not coming. That is when my mother arrived, a solitary figure walking across the vast manicured lawn. Her smile was bright and completely untroubled. She seemed genuinely surprised to find me there, as if my presence at the party I had orchestrated was an unexpected coincidence. The story she told was casual, a simple change of plans discussed in a family group chat that I was apparently not a part of. Megan's new patio furniture had just arrived, and it seemed a shame not to use it. It was all very spontaneous, she assured me. As I drove away from that empty estate, the container of potato salad sitting on my passenger seat felt like a monument to my own foolishness. The silence in my car was louder than the frantic calls I knew would eventually come. I didn't cry. The architect in me took over, analyzing the structural failure. The relationship I had with my family was not a home. It was a house of cards, and they had just pulled out the last supporting beam. It was time to watch it all fall down. And this time, I would not be the one to rebuild it. I got home, and my best friend, Zoe, was already on the phone. She had sensed the impending disaster for years. Check their social media, she said, her voice grim. It took me less than 30 seconds to find it. Megan's Instagram feed was a vibrant collage of the party I was supposed to be at. There they were, my entire family, laughing around a fire pit on Megan's new patio. The caption read, "Nothing better than a spontaneous family celebration for Mom and Dad's 50th. So blessed to have them. There was even a cake. A professionally decorated one. The word spontaneous was a dagger. This wasn't a last-minute decision. This was a premeditated act of exclusion. They had planned a separate party, a more convenient, cheaper party, and simply decided not to tell the person who had funded the main event. They hadn't forgotten me. They had replaced me. They had outsourced the costs and the effort to me, and then enjoyed the benefits in a more desirable location without the inconvenient presence of their benefactor. A cold, clear resolve settled over me. It was the kind of focus I usually reserved for a complex structural problem. The family had a fatal design flaw. Their entire structure was dependent on a single, overstressed support beam, me. And I was about to remove myself from the equation, but I wouldn't do it with angry phone calls or tearful confrontations. I would do it with the one tool they had always taken for granted but never truly respected. My professionalism. That night, I did not sleep. Instead, I went to my home office and opened the professional architectural software I used for my clients. I pulled up the files for Megan's sunroom, the one that had won her that design award. I had never tracked my hours. It was family. But I could estimate. I meticulously documented every meeting, every draft, every site visit. I calculated the cost of materials I had sourced, the fees for permits I had expedited, and the standard industry rate for an architect of my caliber designing a project of that complexity. I was not emotional. I was methodical. I was creating not a weapon, but a document of truth, a ledger of their entitlement. I created a professional invoice on my firm's official letterhead. It was addressed to Megan Donovan. The line items were clear and concise: architectural design services, project management, material sourcing. The final total at the bottom of the page was clean, professional, and staggering: $27,500. It was a fair price. In fact, it was a discount. I attached the original blueprints, the award submission, and a polite but firm cover letter. The letter was my masterpiece of restrained fury. It explained that in light of the recent anniversary celebration, it had become clear that our family operated on a transactional basis. Since my time and professional services were clearly viewed as a commodity to be used at their convenience, I had decided to formalize the arrangement. Therefore, I was invoicing for my most recent significant project with payment due in 30 days to avoid interest. It was cold, corporate, and completely undeniable. I emailed it to Megan at 3 in the morning. Then I created a new group chat, titling it Donovan Family Finances. I added my parents, Megan, and Leo. My first message was simple: moving forward, to ensure clarity and fairness, all family financial matters will be handled in this forum. Please see my recent email to Megan for an example of the new protocol. Then I turned off my phone, went to bed, and for the first time in years, slept soundly. The storm broke the next morning. It started not with a call from Megan, but from my mother. Her voice was a hurricane of disbelief and outrage. An invoice, Clara. You sent your sister an invoice like she's a stranger. Good morning, Mom, I said, my voice as calm as the eye of the storm. I sent Megan a bill for professional services rendered. That's not what families do. Families also don't abandon one of their own at a party they paid for. It seems we are redefining what this family does. My father was next, his tone more pleading than angry. Your sister is in tears, Clara. Your mother is beside herself. Can't you see how much this is hurting them? I see how much their actions hurt me, Dad, for years. The only difference is that I bore the costs in silence. Now the bill has arrived and they don't like the price. But $27,000, he whispered, as if the number itself was obscene. It's a professional fee for a professional job. Are you suggesting my work isn't worth that? Leo's text message was perhaps the most telling. It was a single line of laughing emojis followed by, "You finally did it. You actually sent a bill. You're my hero." But when I didn't respond with a similar lightheartedness, his tone changed. Wait, you're serious? You can't do that, Clara. That's not how we work. I replied simply, it is now. My refusal to back down, my cold professionalism, was something they had never encountered from me before. I was not the reliable, people-pleasing daughter and sister anymore. I was a creditor. Megan called a family meeting, an intervention for my supposed breakdown. I arrived at my parents' house to find them all sitting in the living room, their faces a mixture of anger and confusion. Megan held a printed copy of the invoice in her trembling hand. "This is insane," she said, her voice shaking with rage. "You can't seriously expect me to pay this." "I don't expect you to," I replied calmly. "But I do expect you to understand it. That is the value of the work I did for you for free. That is a fraction of what I have contributed to this family while getting nothing but leftovers in return." I laid out my case, not with emotion, but with facts. I spoke of the anniversary party, the deliberate exclusion, and the years of financial and emotional exploitation that preceded it. I explained that the invoice was not about the money. It was about respect. It was a valuation of my time, my talent, and my contribution, a valuation they had never been willing to make themselves. For the first time, they were silent. They had no counterargument. The truth, presented as coldly as a legal document, was irrefutable. My father was the one who broke the silence. He looked at the invoice in Magan's hand, then at me. "She's right," he said quietly. "We have treated her like a bank, not a daughter. We took her for granted because it was easy, because she never complained. We owe her more than this. We owe her an apology." That meeting was not the end, but it was the beginning of the end of the old Donovan family. It was the start of a slow, painful, and necessary reconstruction. Megan did not pay the invoice in full, but a week later, a check arrived in the mail. It was for $5,000. The memo line simply said, "For the sunroom." It was an admission. It was an apology. It was a start. Leo called me a month later, not to ask for a loan, but to ask for advice on creating a business plan, a real one this time. He wanted my expertise, not just my money, and he offered to pay my consultation fee. The healing was not linear. It was awkward and full of setbacks, but the dynamic had shifted permanently. Family gatherings became potlucks, with everyone contributing. Vacations were planned with budgets that everyone agreed to up front. My financial success was no longer a resource to be plundered, but a skill to be respected. The revenge I got was not the satisfaction of a paid invoice. It was the quiet joy of a balanced relationship built on a new foundation of mutual respect. I had to tear the old house down to save the family inside it. Sometimes the only way to be seen by the people closest to you is to show them the bill. Not for the money, but for the value of your love, your effort, and your time. Have you ever been the one who gives everything and gets scraps in return? What was the moment that you finally decided enough was enough? Share your story in the comments below, because every voice that has been silenced deserves to be heard. And if you believe that the most powerful revenge is reclaiming your own value, make sure you subscribe to Revenge with any